Okay, so yesterday, you remember, I showed you the billet that I came up with, and I made two of those actually. Forge welded them together. They started out 9 layers, and this is a little knife I made. Sorry I'm not able to video all of my forging and everything right now because I only have my phone and it's kind of tough. But with each billet I stretched it out to about 8 inches long, inch wide, 1/4 inch thick. Then I took my cold chisel and cut it and folded it over and forge welded it again, stretched it out to the same dimensions again, cut it again, forge welded it together again. And so starting out at 9 layers, I had 36 layers. And then I did the same with the other billet and got them both to 36 layers. And that was pretty much it for that one. It got late and I got tired and I went and ate some dinner and went to bed. And then this morning I come out to the forge and I took those 2 billets and forge welded them together and then stretched it out and cut it and folded it one time, forge welded it one more time, and then I made this knife out of it. It's 144 layers if I'm doing my math properly. There's 144 layers of Damascus right there, and I think it came out real good. It's just got a rough grind on it. But you can see the pattern in there. And once because I couldn't take it, I did a rough grind and threw it in the etch. You see the handle hasn't been etched. I just etched the tang hasn't been etched. I just etched the blade. Just wanted to see what kind of pattern I had going on in there. And when I grind the bevels in, that'll show up a lot better because I didn't do a twist or anything like that. You know, I just kept folding it and re-welding it, and so there's a lot of layers in there. So once I cut in these bevels, you know, it's gonna show up a lot nicer. It'll make a nice little kitchen knife or something like that. I've got some cedar firewood out here beside the garage, and I'm gonna cut a nice piece out of that and make my scales out of that, I believe. I'll use this. I've got 1/8 of an inch copper. Got some 1/8 inch copper stock that I'll use for my pins, and of course it'll be epoxied and everything anyway, and they'll mostly be for looks. So that's what I've been doing all day. There's the failed knife. You can see there's quite a difference in the size of the two. Same basic shape, just a lot smaller. I think that was part of my problem with the first attempt. I tried to use too much steel and I didn't get the right heat on it and that. So I went a little smaller this time because I didn't want to put that much time and effort into another failed attempt. But these welds took well, and so I'm going to finish grinding it tonight. I still haven't tempered it. I need to temper it. So I thought I'd give you a little look at my little setup here. Here's my little forge. I bought these fire brick off of a guy in the local want ads here, and they're very soft. You can cut these things in half with a sheetrock saw, no problem. And when I was doing the Damascus on that first blade, it ate right through my fire brick in the floor. I got a couple extra just in case, and here's what happened to them. I mean, you can see that that flux, that borax just eats that up. So what I ended up having to do was replace those 2 bricks right here in the front of the forge And I got a piece of this concrete, it's like a paver. It's just a concrete paver, 2 inches thick or thereabouts, and 6 inches wide and however long. And I marked it out and I cut that piece. And then you can see there how I just notched out my bricks with my saw, with my little sheetrock saw, and laid that in the bottom. You can't really see it in there, but it's even working on that concrete. I mean, it'll eat that up in a while, but you know, they're $1.50 at Lowe's. I'd go get another one and throw my floor in there. Those are easy to come by. It's these soft clay fire brick that are harder to find. And then I just built a little cage around this. I just laid 3 bricks side by side here, you can see. Then I stood one up on edge right here, and then I laid 3 more side by side to make the top, and I just made this little cage out of just some simple, I think it's 1-inch angle, and some little straps here to hold it together. But I left the back and the front open intentionally so I can replace these bricks if I need to. And this little forge here, you can see where that piece of concrete comes out the back of my forge. I was worried about it spalling when I put the heat to it, but it never did spall. I think it cracked, but it didn't spall. And so that's nice. It didn't have chunks of concrete flying all over, but there's no rock in it. I think that's a lot of the reason why concrete will spall, because it's got gravel, you know, it's got rock. And this is just cement and sand, you know. They're real heavy, solid little concrete blocks. So there's that. Made my burner out of just some black pipe, and that's a 3/4 inch going into the T, and then to 1 inch. And I just took some small black pipe, that 1/4 inch pipe, welded a cap, or screwed a cap on the end of it, bored a hole, I think it was a 1/2 inch hole in the top of that T, screwed a little number 30 MIG tip, tapped and drilled and tapped a hole in the end of that little cap, and put my 30 MIG tip in there, and then brought it over here to a ball valve, a little safety valve if I need to shut the forge off real quick. I never just use that because, you know, there may be a little gas leaking out, so I always shut the tank off when I'm finished. But I just use these small propane tanks like you would use on your grill. I got this regulator online. I believe I got it on Amazon. I think it was, oh shoot, I'd be lying to you if I told you how much I paid for it, but I think it was around 30 bucks or something. It's a 40 PSI. I've never taken it up that high. Never had any reason to. I have 2 of these little 5-gallon propane tanks that I keep full. So if I run out, I have one that if I run out of gas in the middle of a project, I don't want to have to go to the store. And then I've got just this little pie tin deal here, lasagna pan, whatever it is, one of these little tin foil pans with my borax, my flux. Here's my tongs. I made a set of tongs out of some rebar, and I've got them set up to hold about 1/4 inch stock. So when I first get a big billet that I want to hammer down, it's just much easier to weld a piece of rebar on it. But once you get it down to workable stage, where you're about ready to make a knife out of it, why, you're losing your handle by then, and the tongs work out real good. Here's my little anvil. It's just a little Harbor Freight 55-pound. I've only got it secured with a couple of bridge spikes, and they're not driven all the way in. They're just enough to keep it from falling off of the stump. Got a stump from a friend of my son. Took my saw and just kind of leveled up the top of it. The hammer I use is just a little 2-pound sledge that I got from Harbor Freight. I have a drawer full of hammers in the toolbox over here, but they're all those yellow fiberglass handles and rubber grips, and I've got some ball peens of various sizes and a 3-pound sledge. And then I have this one here. This is a 3-pound cross peen. It's got a wider head on it. I use that for my forge welds because you really want to get a good blow on there, and it's got a wider head so I don't miss. And then over here I've got my little, I just use a little 110 welder again that I got from Harbor Freight, a MIG welder, flux core. Works really well. Here's my vise. It's just a plain old vise. A buddy of mine gave that to me when I moved into the house. Thank you, Scott. A little old and worn, but it does the job. I picked this up, my drill press, at Lowe's, I believe. You know, it works, it does the job. I've got this little cheesy belt grinder. That'll be my next investment. It'll be a 2x72 inch belt grinder, but you know, and then I've got tools accessible. I've got lots of sandpaper and belts and things in this other box, and my angle grinder. I've got a 21-gallon compressor over here. I've got a lot of little air tools and angle grinders and that I can use, and so there it is. There's my forge. That's my pride and joy right there, 2004 Road King. But it's snowing outside today, so she's staying in the garage. So anyway, I just wanted to show you my progress in my little shop and what I do in here and what I have. And then I've got this pile of old metal that I picked up, leaf springs and rebar and little pieces of saw blade and bandsaw blade and some cable. I'm going to try a cable Damascus next, I believe. But you know, that's all my shop. I've got a little bucket of water here for my knife when I'm grinding, and there's my what I quench in. It's just some canola oil. So there you go, a little tour of my shop, and a little, just wanted to throw a video together to show you my progress. And I'm sorry for the quality in that. I have to use my phone, so I can't take very long videos, and the quality isn't that great. But we'll get better. I'm gonna get some better camera stuff in here, and that my brother's gonna help me. So, all right, have a nice night. Talk to you later.